Welcome to the Sharing and Circular Economy meetup. How many of you have been here at the previous meetup with us? Okay, some return. Who is new? The majority. Good. So we are growing the network. Great. So let's get started. Today we have in the program a very interesting panel discussion with some experts from various industries and companies. And after that we do some small pitches of startups, and then obviously the most important, the mingling and the networking at the end. Please stay around, and we will have more drinks and snacks outside if you would like to. And yeah, let's get started. Maybe a bit of an introduction to why I am here. We have started this meetup group since I have started a startup in the sharing economy, and we saw that there's not really a regular network, a regular meetup of the circular and sharing economy in Stockholm yet, and that's why we started it. Our head sponsor today is Zuora. Very happy to have some support from some companies, and we start with a little clip.
When you look at the world, what do you see? People or things? Tools or activities? Products or customers? For a long time, the world's businesses had just one perspective. They saw the products, not the people. They were in the business of selling things, so that's what they did. Businesses sold and customers bought. You might call this the era of ownership. Businesses knew they had customers, they saw them every day, but they didn't really know their customers, and so they focused more on what they could sell them than what they wanted. And that was fine, until the thing you bought broke, sat idle, couldn't expand, or became obsolete. And then you had to buy a new one. And that was not what the customer wanted. And that's just sad. But here's the good news. There are a few companies that have had the courage to see the world in a new way. Mavericks, disruptors, reinventors, call them what you will. In just 10 short years, they have changed the way we all see the world. There's the automotive company in Detroit that when it looks at highways, no longer sees vehicles, it sees travelers. Ford. After 115 years and 380 million cars, it's hard to imagine this company changing the way it does business, but that's exactly what's happening. Or the world's leading construction and equipment manufacturer, Caterpillar, a company that no longer sees gigantic earth movers, but customers who need to move earth. Or how about the 70-year-old company known for crafting the most popular guitars in the world, that no longer sees instruments, but people who want to be musicians? That's what's happening at Fender. And these are just 3 examples. There are many more. Surf Air, who sees passengers instead of jets. The Guardian, who sees open minds rather than open newspapers. Serve Corp, who sees the work, not the place. Hive, who sees smart people instead of smart homes. And Royal Canin, who sees pets instead of pet food. Companies that have the vision to look at the world in a new way, seeing people, not purchases, delivering outcomes, not products. And this is changing the world for the better. You could call this the end of ownership and the rise of usership. We call it the subscription economy. So now, when you look at the world, what will you see?
This was a very nice introduction video and a bit of the topic, but with several examples. We'll have several more today. From Hygglo, Daniel from Electrolux, and from Agapi Boating. A little bit at the beginning who you are, what you personally have to do with the sharing economy. Maybe you can all tell us a bit about what kind of apps in the sharing and circular economy, or what kind of services you are personally using.
Oh, that's a big question. So my name is Therese, and I'm the CEO for Volvo Car Mobility Sweden, and also the previous company called Sunfleet. We work in the sharing economy around cars, of course, and on what kind of products I use the most I can regarding sharing cars. I use TipTap for sending away things. I order food from on the websites. I try to use boats, and so the most things I can reach, I try actually to try out.
Great. Pierre, what about you?
My name is Pierre, and I'm head of marketing and sales for Tradera. And I use obviously Tradera a lot, and also TipTap, and that's basically it.
Okay, great. Henrik, how about you?
My name is Henrik. I'm one of the founders and product manager of Hygglo. I think, I use TipTap a lot, order a lot of food. Not sure if that's really sharing economy though, but it's apps I use.
Closed, yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Daniel. I am heading up a team in Electrolux working with software as products, basically, mainly for smaller appliances. What do I use? I've been using TipTap a bit. Spotify, right? Maybe. Yeah.
You get very broad
instead
with
of the CDs and vinyls and so on. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, Peter. I'm the captain of Agapi Boating. And I have to say, I live the movie you just saw. That's my conviction. And the whole company, we're not big, we're just 6 people. We are so convinced that that is the future. So what we are trying to do is really just disrupt the whole boating business, a different way to use boats. And what do I use? I've done Sunfleet. I've tried Sunfleet. Drive Now, of course. I am so happy to use the boats now, not owning them, but enjoying them. And then Netflix, Spotify, I consider that being shared economy as well. And then eager to try new things. And I'm looking forward to see more solutions from the car industry. Because I live in Sigtuna now, so I need other kind of, we will discuss that later.
Yeah, maybe you find some new services you can use today. Let's go back to Therese. Therese, as you said, you're now the managing director for Sweden of Volvo Car Mobility, or M, and you are also the CEO of Sunfleet. Now, how did this change from Sunfleet to mobility come apart? Is it just a branding change? Is it like a globalization change? Or was there a specific learning that it needs like something new?
All of this actually started around 3 years ago when Volvo cars were trying to find new ways of not expand, but see how customer actually use cars and how they would like to use cars. And then they developed 4 new companies, where Volvo Car Mobility is one of them. And we are supposed to work with a business model around subscription for cars. So you just pay for a car when you use it, exactly as the movie described it. When we found the strategy that we would like to work with, the Volvo car group said that this company already exists in Sweden, so that is Sunfleet. So why don't you use Sunfleet and start to test things in that company when you develop the new company, so to say, or the new brand and product. So we have developed M, which is the product and service that we have now launched for 1 month ago. So all of you have to go in and download M on your app, because what you do there is that you can book the car and open the car and use the car and talk to customer care in the app. And that's the only thing you need to be able to get the Volvo in Stockholm at the moment. So that's a part of the trip.
And how Peder said, like, it's very, very local at the moment. So you have it, I think, on 3 islands in Stockholm at the moment, right? You have the services available at 3 islands in Stockholm at the moment, correct?
No, it's actually available on all places in Stockholm now. So we have 230 stations in Stockholm where you can get a car. So, and we normally don't talk about how many cars we have, because it's all about how many customers we can serve with this amount of cars. And the reason or our main task is to actually give the customers a car when they want it. And to be able to do that, we really need to understand the patterns where people need a car and when, so we actually can serve the cars on the right place and the right time. So that is what we are working on.
Great. Let's jump a bit to Daniel. I mean, home appliances and what Electrolux usually does might not be the most obvious choice of the sharing or circular economy. Why are you investing in it, and why did you decide to go for a subscription model? And did you try any other models like renting, co-owning, or so?
Sure. Okay, so first question: why is Electrolux? What kind of macro insight, gives Electrolux the reason to believe that this is an interesting vector for us to pursue? Remember that this is a company, Electrolux, that owns 42 factories around the world. And I'm a software guy in this company, right? And I've only been there for a little, 1.5 years or so, still very new to that culture. But the hardware culture is a very different organization and a different beast than a typical software culture, right? Okay, so what macro insight drive this mindset, beginning of mindset shift? There is one kind of insight that started the conversation. Historically, throughout evolution, basically, technology evolution and capitalism has basically gone hand in hand. You can go all the way back to the spinning jenny and so on. There have been kind of a marriage between tech progress and capitalism that has kind of led to the state where we are today in Western worlds and on this planet, I would argue, right? The problem has been that for each new unit produced, we kind of consume more raw material. So for each can of Coca-Cola produced and sold in that economy, we consume more aluminum or whatnot, right? And from a macroeconomic perspective, we are kind of now in this breaking point where this is being decoupled. So you can decouple value creation from increased raw material consumption, for example. That has never happened before, right? And that is the kind of overarching vector or macro shift that we are witnessing, and that is what lies underneath many of these models, right? So if we were not trying to understand how that macro shift would play out in our industry, I think that would be wrong for our shareholders and for this planet, basically.
Where is the main drive for this shift coming from?
I think the main drive from this shift is coming from software and the ability to look at relationships in a different way and moving away from kind of moving boxes to nurturing a relationship with the user. That is the fundamental shift, and it's enabled by software and internet, basically.
And you're doing now a subscription-based model for vacuum cleaner, for robot vacuum cleaner, and also have invested in Mila, a company which does subscription-based air cleaner. So it's all in the subscription-based. Did you try other directions as well, like renting out your products or so on?
We have been doing rental services for quite some time. And different financing models, right? But it's kind of a financing model. It's a financial lease scheme if you're, good on your, CFO agenda. It's not really, and at some point in time, the ownership is then moved to the user or to the, of the product or appliance. This is more about paying for the actual use of the appliance. Which then gets the user a one-to-one relationship of value created. So it is a very different thing from a leasing program or a rental scheme, which is more of a financial solution. Yeah.
Interesting. Peder, you're nodding your head, and from our previous conversation, I know that obviously in the boating sector there is several different possibility rental with skippery. We support in ihopa, we support co-owners, and you also mentioned that you went a bit through the different possibilities. So how did you end up in the membership subscription area?
Yeah, we've been experimenting a little bit, but to be very honest, from the very beginning, it was just a pleasure case. It all started with we wanted to create a new kind of product, actually with the product first, because we thought the boat industry was so behind the car industry. We wanted a more flexible, versatile product. But at the same time, I just finished a project down in Brazil. I got really bitten by shared economy. I had seen the effect of shared economy. So from the very beginning in 2010-11, we had it in the back of my mind that once we get the products ready, because you need to have the product ready first, then we're going to go into the sharing economy. And during that trip, we actually tried part ownership and so on, but every time you did that, it was so complicated when an owner wanted to sell half of a boat, a third of a boat. So we pretty much realized that we have to separate the ownership from the membership completely. So in 2017, we launched the Agapi Club, then focused on just subscription, like a golf club, like a gym. And the software, I would say, is the enabler to do this. But it's just one part of a quite big, complex operation. And well, then since then, it's been an amazing journey. We lost 3 years, and I think every week we learn. This area is so new that it's the ability to quickly analyze, learn, and adjust that will make the winner. Because what I know now, compared to 3 years ago, 6 years ago, it's a different world. So, I don't know if I answered your question, but
yes, you answered.
So right now where we are, and especially what we're going to launch to next year, it's really a lot of learning. A lot of that learning actually comes from Sunfleet, whom we drive now, because it's a lot to look at different businesses. We have all so much in common at the same time that the product as such is still very different. We, for example, we're not in the boating business. People think so. We're not. We're in the lifestyle business. And everyone thinks that we are a boat company. I always have to tell them, no, it's not the boat company. We supply you with the coolest boating experience you can imagine. But we're not a boat company. So anyway, we'll come back to this, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. Talking about the experience, I mean, Tradera was in the circular economy before it was cool. Do you see in the recent years any shift of the readiness of the people, that there is like a quicker onboarding of people than it was before?
Well, yeah, obviously we're growing and we're growing fast, but to me, I think we're growing too slow, because I really think that we and the world needs to make a shift and use the things that is already produced. And I think the main two obstacles to that is, first of all, the industry producing shitty stuff that isn't good enough, that even can't be sold over and over again. Like, I don't have to mention H&M and Zara and those guys. I did. Sorry if you're here.
From H&M in here?
They don't dare to. No, I'm sorry. No, but that's a super big obstacle. Obviously, that so many products is in such bad quality that they can't be sold over and over again. So that's one obstacle. The other obstacle is the consumer always thinking about buying new stuff when they need something. So if someone in here think they need a new pair of shoes, they immediately think of Skoret or any other shoe store. And we need, as consumers, to make a shift in how we think and think of things that is already produced. So those are the two main obstacles that we really need to come over to take off in a higher speed that we need to do.
And is there any? Do you see that the customers are today different than 5 years ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think especially the last year, has been very positive in terms of people being aware of how that new consumption is affecting the planet twice as much as the flying business. So yeah, I think the awareness is rising, and yeah, we see great growth, but it should go faster.
Sorry. Henrik, obviously at Hygglo you're working a few years with the rental concept. Now you're a bit, everyone else is doing very much subscription based. You're the one who's doing peer-to-peer rental. But similar question, I mean, is there in the recent years, what was the shift? Is there new challenges for users, or does the onboarding and the readiness have changed?
I think we all see a change in user behavior because of environmental impact and thinking outside the box. And I also really agree with Pierre here that it's about a shift in consumerism that is needed, that we don't have a problem with supply, which I think most people think, like people don't want to rent out their things, that's very private, that's not a problem. The problem is that people, they want to buy stuff. And I mean, we're still thinking that Tradera and Blocket, you're lucky because you still sell stuff. We're just renting out temporarily. And that's a big shift, because if you want to make a hole in the wall, you're thinking, what kind of hammer drill should I buy? And should I look at Blocket first? You're not thinking like, I just need it for an hour, I should rent it.
And why is that? Why do you think that is? What is the hurdle which is mainly there?
I don't think it's a hurdle. I don't just think it's a behavior, or it's a behavior that needs to be changed. There's no hurdles. You just need to start thinking differently, and that's tough to. It's tough to change a market in that way.
And what do you do to change the market in that direction?
We're such a small company. We're just 5 people. So I mean, the marketing budget that would be required to make whole of Sweden think differently is bigger than ours. But we do some small PR things. We launched a new word last fall called prylsvinn. So people are thinking about like what are things just that you just have on your shelves at home. That's actually some kind of svinn, very much copied from matsvinn. But and we got that into the dictionary, the Svenska Akademiens ordlista, and so we do small things like that to try to push it. But of course we need the help of bigger companies.
So we have many bigger companies here with bigger marketing budgets. Do you think, Therese, that the sharing economy, subscription economy in your case, that this is, and also we see that M is now a very visual branding. Do you address a very specific type of customer? Is it more like a rich customer which wants to be like comfort is the main driver, or is there also a budget option in the future?
I wouldn't say that sharing economy is for rich or for poor people. I would say that sharing economy is for people that actually care, and people that care for the environment. And for cars, for example, we have cars all over the cities, standing still 95% of the time, actually. So a car gets used 5% of the time for their whole car lifetime. And if you divide that 5%, you're actually looking for a parking lot for 2% of that time. So the car gets driven 3% of the time of a lifetime of a car. And I think that is something that we should, if we look into this beautiful cities that we have, that is fully parked with cars and not with the green spaces that we would like to have, that should be your own drive in how you would like to change your own behavior to not own, for example, cars. So not for rich or not for poor.
So do you think that sustainability is the main driver also for people which are using your service, or is it comfort, is it price? Like, what is there different segments of customers which you reach with the different messaging?
Yes, it's different customers, of course. And what you can see in our model is that we try to do different kind of subscriptions for different kind of use cases. So someone, for example, only would like to have a car in the weekends, then and use it for, you know, both Saturday and Sunday. Some people just want it for the weekdays, and other people maybe just for the weeknights. So we try to find the right customer for the right or the right segment, actually.
And how do you solve like the problem that the same 3 hours when everyone wants to go shopping, the cars are booked?
That is a hard one, because many people in this city would like to have the car on Saturday or Sunday. But on the other hand, if we go into the part where we look into all the businesses that today actually have tons of tjänstebilar, or car as a perk that we call them, we see a massive change even there, that people don't, or the companies don't want to have these cars where people just, you know, use it 1 hour and then they have other cars driving around to the different businesses. So I think we need to find the balance of the segments to mix up the right.
Yes. Same question to you. Boats. We know they also stand around a lot.
Sustainability is definitely the driver, and is awareness. Perhaps more so in Sweden than other countries. For us, we see two very clear segments, and I have to be very clear with the first one, because that's one of our top 3 objectives. What we do in the end of the day is just better. It's simply better. I mean,
it's a comfort thing.
It's much better. If we think back now, 10, 20 years back, and look at our telephones and so on, and then we look at our smartphones today, I think in 10 years we're going to look back and say, how the hell could we be using boats the way we did? Use them exactly the same thing, but much worse for boats. Much worse, because they cost much more expensive to maintain, and they're being used much less. So what we're close to 200 members now. Most of our members, they've chosen our product because it's simply better. They get new boats every year. They get a boat every, in different harbors, and they pay a fraction of it. So that's the driver, and I think that has to be the driver. It's simply better. And I kind of agree with you at the same time, as we in Sweden quite often believe we are kind of green. But this kind of behavior we see in Spain, we see it in other markets as well, that what you come up with has to be better. Simply better. That's one segment. But the other really cool aspects of it is that as we apply shared economy, obviously the cost goes down. And taking Stockholm as an example, if we look at boating, you look at the trends. I think most here are actually belong to the new generation, with some exceptions, myself included. And they will not go into the old kind of boating. It's too expensive, too much work. So when we look at our market segmentation now, being able to offer boating, a very premium boating life, at a 10th perhaps of if you buy the boat yourself, obviously we tap into a completely new segment. And for boating as such, it's very important, because boating has gone like this the last 10 years because of no reasons. The environment is one, definitely. And now I'm sure we're going to come back to the green aspect of it. But so to answer your question, we see for the rich, boating will never be for the poor. I have to be clear on that one. But it will be cost effective.
Great. So we have the motivators of it being better, it being more comfortable, it potentially getting cheaper, but the sustainability is a little bit the official driver, at least. Would you say the same for people renting out or renting peer-to-peer?
I think the people renting out, environmental impact is one thing.
Is it really a driver, or is it just like something that you can use for marketing, but the driver is still, okay, I can make a little bit of money?
No. Both environment and making a little bit of money it's more marketing. That's not really what triggers people. If you see what really triggers people is like a frustration that things are not being used. That's what people, when you ask them, that's what they instinctively say. But I think it's a combination. You can't just rule one out and say that one there's only one aspect of it. But the strongest factor is that things are not being used, that you have like a garage full of equipment and it's not just spending time there. And I think, a hammer drill, how many minutes it's being used in its whole lifetime? You've heard this, right? Yeah, it's 12 minutes approximately. So a car that's used several hours per week, that's huge in comparison.
So yeah, let's talk a bit about the environmental impact of the things. It's obviously you as a Electrolux, you produce items at the moment which you sell, and then people use them, and then potentially you hope that they don't hold too long, so you can sell a new. I don't want to imply anything. Do the products that you rent out to the customers, or like subscription based to the customers, are they the same products you would sell to people, or is also the product design changing with that?
Today it's the exact same product, right? But what you hint on here is very important. So design for refurbishment becomes more valuable, right? You can all of a sudden you can put a money, you can put a label, you can put a price on that process, because that process will lead to an increased cost, right? And it was impossible before to estimate what benefit would come out of that cost increase. Now you can make a case out of it. So that is important. So design for refurbishment, design for reusability. So in practice, electrical engines, lithium-ion batteries, can you replace them easy? Can you replace them with stronger or better units without changing other components? So those are some examples of how that becomes more sustainable.
And the products, in the subscription base, what you have, the product which stay with one person all the time. So it's not like other, like Volvo and Agapi and so on.
It's moving around. It's moving around.
Okay, but how many households will one of these products see? When we think about vacuum cleaner,
exactly. So currently it is the robotic vacuum cleaner that we have as the offering, and basically you're able to exit the program at any point in time, at any month, and then you send the unit back to us. We refurbish the unit, which means that we put new side brushes on, clean the unit, empty dustbin, and maybe replace the dustbin if it's very scratched. We can replace the bumper, and we put it in a new packaging, and then then it is going to a new user's household to continue to work. That is the process. That is the scheme, right?
Interesting. Question for you. The last event we had here was around circular fashion, and we had a quite interesting question to H&M and Sellpy, which were here the last time. It was then, if you resell clothes, do you actually motivate people to buy even more because they know, okay, I can resell it at the end?
Well, that's a great question, but I would rather turn it around and say that I would love that people think, oh, can I maybe resell this one? Because if they think like that, then they will buy better quality. And if they buy better quality, that's probably the best thing we could do for the environment, to buy stuff that lasts. And then if we get them into circularity, and then we can produce less. So from that perspective, I think it's very good that people already in the store, when they buy new stuff, think of them maybe selling them afterwards. So yeah, I would turn it around.
You agree with that from a renting perspective? Thank you. I have a question here also for Therese, which came partly from the audience. You said before that, cars are standing around a lot, and also cities are mostly a big car park. How do you think in the future car sharing? Can it actually give us space back? Do you see that your cars actually stand around less, so percentage-wise? And how many cars do you think you would need to cover whole Stockholm?
That is a pretty hard question. I actually looked into this before we had this, or before today. But we count like this, that one car replaces 8 up to 10 private-owned cars. So if you have then 1,000 customers using 100 cars, we have 800 or above 800 cars that we can take away from the street, and that gives us a space of 10,500 square meters, which is in the size of 1/3 of Humlegårdsparken. So if we just look into that and see how much we can change by taking away cars, we can actually build green areas in cities like Stockholm.
And how many cars will we need in Stockholm?
It's depending on how many that download this app and start to use the service.
But it's interesting, like, how many of you have a car? So if you see...
How many of you have M? Good.
But the interesting question here is, do you think that car sharing actually reduces the people who buy a car, or does it even increase the mileage of cars are done, because suddenly all of these people which didn't raise their hand actually have access to a car?
And the reason we say that this isn't the model that everybody used yet is that it hasn't been good enough. So when we work with this, we have to promise you a car when you want a car. So that is today what we actually aim for. So if you go into M and ask us to get a car, we will probably be able to give you one, and that will help us or help the society to actually sell their privately owned cars, because it's not, you don't need it. It's just standing there, it's dirty all the time, or you get parking tickets on it, and it costs a fortune to have a parking lot in town.
And do you know how many people at the moment which are using your service actually got rid of their car or didn't buy a car because they use your service?
All of them.
So there is no one who didn't ever think of having a car and now suddenly uses M?
Absolutely, and that's why I came back to this, like the behavioral change that people need to go through. I talked to so many customers regarding that they use their Excel sheets to actually count on how much does my car actually cost, and how can I save money to go over to these kind of services. And in the end, I always talk about, like, if you are really true to yourself, how much money do you put into your car ownership today? From my side, I probably put in 10 to 12,000 kronor a month for my old car that I had, and for those money I can do so much other things.
Yeah, the next time when you come to this event, I will ask you this question again, because we know that from the research that people did with Voi and all these scooters, that what they actually replace is walking and public transport and not really car rides. So.
And just to give you a short answer on that, the solution we have is station-based. That means that you will find cars at the same place all the time. We don't think that those kind of services like Voi or other mobility services that have free-floating fleets is replacing the thing that we replace. So that's pretty much different things.
Yeah, we talked about, you said boating will never be put for the poor, but let's be honest, Stockholm has a lot too many rich people, so also a lot too many boats. How do you think? Do you think that your business model will have a huge impact in the future of how many boats we actually have standing around?
And I think it's nice to listen to you, because a lot of the logic, it's
Don't
the same.
agree with her all the time.
No, but I mean, I'm coming to something different as well. I mean, first we agree to get the feeling, and then I will point out the differences. And the major difference is that boating as such is not a transportation. We're not in a transportation. It's more of a social, it's a lifestyle. And what we see, it's the same thing. We more or less see 8 to 10 members per boat. So it's the same mathematics. Most of our members, they have left a boating life. So far, we don't have that many new. We hope that we will get a lot of new boaters, a lot of you, for example, that have never boated in your life. But most right now, what's happening is actually we're replacing 10 boats with 1 boat. And that as such, most people don't really understand. We have big V6, we have V8s. Sometimes I'm being criticized. How can you say you're green? when you have 425 horsepower from Yamaha, V8. And then I tried to explain, yeah, but there are 10, there were 10 people using it. The ecological footprint for that one is 90% better than anyone else in boating. Huh? Doesn't really come through. That's why we are now, what we're doing right now is that, and this has to go hand in hand, with all the data we have, we know exactly how our members are using the boats. And we already today see that we will be able to replace, this year we're going to reach like 17 or 1,800 trips with our fleet. That corresponds to, anyone want to guess how many years of normal boating that corresponds to? Quick math there. More than 300 years of normal boating. We have all, and we know exactly everything about that, even if they use the toilet. So we know that 20%, we don't have any cameras though, 20% of all the trips are just around the corner. So what we are doing now, we're launching soon an e-power, 100% e-power. This, of course, is very trendy, right? PR, e-power, and so on. But in this specific case, it makes so much sense. Our members will then choose the product, and that's also the same as cars. In a way, they will choose the product that will fit their use. So if you want a petrol because you're going to go out to Sandhamn with a group of friends over the weekend, well, then you have to wait 10 years for an electrical boat. That's the truth. But as I said, 20% of our members, they just decide to go to Gothenburg, or the restaurant Gothenburg, I should say. And doing that, they will love the e-power. And by this, we can actually meet, the technology can meet the user demands. This year is going to be 20%. Next year, when the e-power technology goes up, because we're not going to take any technology risk, it's going to be 30%, 40%. And since we are now opening ports out in the archipelago, our members start using their electrical cars to go out to the outer archipelago, take the electrical boat from there. So you can go to Sandhamn with an e-power boat. And I'm sure that the same thing will follow the car industry now. That because our members are so, the awareness, as we discussed, it's going up like this right now. And I think it's so funny with, now I'm taking a lot of time. Every time I meet some from the outside, from other countries, like the Chinese, we had a Chinese delegation. Guess which Swede they knew about? Greta. Greta Thunberg. That's the one they knew. And that's also an interesting story because...
Don't tell it to Zlatan.
We had a Chinese delegation and they came up to visit us and they explained to me, we want to learn more about how this boating works because we have a problem in China. And because we have now 50 million people who want to go into boating, perhaps. They cannot go into the old traditional way of boating. That would never work. Not to say from a sustainability point of view. So my point with my story here is that it's important that we, as companies, meet up with products that so to speak, are then more sustainable. In that way, we can compensate for the fact that, of course, and I'm sure that Therese would agree, we want the usage to go. All of you today that are not boaters, of course, we would love to see you as members. And that could, in the worst of the world, increase the pollution. That is true. Unless we as a company really make sure to meet up with the latest technology. And that's where circular and subscription economy makes so much sense, and very few people know about this, is that we can take the existing technology, we don't sell products, we supply a service, so we can meet the demands like this, every year go up as the technology grows. Because today, honestly, not many of you would buy an electric boat because they are and will be for a long time very restricted. Well, anyway, that was a long answer.
Thank you. Good answer. But going from the sustainability maybe a bit to the more like business economical sustainability, we have now seen with example was said before, Selfie and other niche players, a lot of competition in the circular economy. How do you see that? Is it a competition for you, or is it more like, as we discussed before, more of helping in a market education?
Well, first of all, in regards of Selfie, they sell like 80% of the stuff at Tradera, so they are a very good friend of ours and not a competitor. But if we talk about like Blocket or Ties or Trade or all the other ones, I really don't see them as competitors. I really see them like we are in the same team. But I see some other players like competitors like fast fashion and the other ones. Those are the real competitors that we need to be better than to really shift the consumers.
Great. And for you, you're now in Sweden. You said you're still a small company, but I'm sure you have also like aspirations to grow very quickly. How do you see like the outside of Sweden? How is the market in other countries developing? Is there? I saw that there's a lot of local heroes in every market. Is there a potential for a company, for a startup, where you still are like you to actually have like a better product than them and globalize, or is it a very local need?
I think there's a global need, absolutely. We just went into Norway, so we're slowly getting there. We bought our competitor. I think this is a trend, as you say. There are these kind of Hygglo companies in most.
Many of them have failed before, like
exactly.
in the past.
And I mean, there were also many companies that tried streaming music before Spotify, and they failed miserably. But I think it's and that's also, I remember this is an old quote from Daniel Ek. It's not there are no good ideas. There's only good execution. And I actually think that we're doing quite well there. That's why we were able to buy out our Norwegian competitor. And one of the challenges is like it's security when it comes to renting. Actually, that's the big challenge. And I think we have the very good infrastructure in Sweden and the Nordics. When we have digital authentication through BankID, we have credit scoring and things like that really make it easy to know who you're renting out to, and if they have a credit score that's good enough to actually lend them the thing.
Thank you. You're also mainly in Sweden at the moment, especially with the past of Sunfleet, and it's like Sunfleet is now 20 years. How long is it going? So when do you see that this will actually have an impact in Volvo as like a business model? Will there ever be like the time when actually this is becoming the main business model for a car producer such as Volvo?
If we see really in the long run, when we have self-driving cars, we won't own any cars longer, I think. So that's like the quick answer. Today we have Sweden as our test country to test all the different kind of concepts that we would like to take out. And I think that sharing economy and subscription models for cars is something that, yes, we will be a portion of how people access cars or use cars in the future. But I would not say that we might take away all the other business models there, actually. So it's going to be a mix, I think.
But it will be like a big part of Volvo, or will it always be like a niche supplier for like, as it is at the moment in many industries?
I think if you come to the megatrends, for example, where people actually move more into the cities, we will have less space in the cities, so we would like to use that space even better than we do today. And that will also help us to share more things, because we won't have, you know, I don't think we will give up land to place stand-still cars there.
But that's more of a political decision than a user decision, isn't it?
No, I think it comes from both angles, actually. That users, again, it's the land is very expensive, and we are a part of many big building projects in all over Sweden. And what we see there is that the building companies work with green parking numbers now, so they actually don't build that many parking lots because that is also a cost thing. And where our type of service will be the only service that exists in those kind of cities that is building up.
Electrolux, how long do we have to wait until everything is subscription?
Wow. Honestly, I think that or I know that different user types will prefer different options, right? There are a lot of users that still will prefer to own. Let's generalize and say that it will be 30 or 40% of the use base. You know, they will prefer to own. In some cultures, it's actually deeply rooted to own, so that will take a longer time to change. And then you will have also a big chunk that will subscribe to, getting the benefit out of the physical product. So I don't think it will be, this dramatic shift that will play out fast or 100%. The reality most likely will be that it will be a more complex palette. It will never be as simple as it was in the 1980s before software, internet, and all these macro trends played out. And you had the retailer, or you had the car dealer, and then that was the value chain, and it was never shifting. We will have a plethora of different options for users to.
But when you, for example, now at Electrolux talk to your management and so on, do you always have to fight for these initiatives, or is there like a push also coming from management to make this happen, to understand these new trends?
Yeah, exactly. So there is a big understanding of sustainability. Electrolux has been positioned itself sustainably for a very long time in factories and supply chain. One of the leaders in the industry around sustainability, but not in the relationship with the user. So this is the new aspect, right? When you take sustainability all the way out from raw materials, logistics, manufacturing, to actually the relationship with the user. To kind of really connect the dots.
Is it more of a branding?
Definitely not. It needs to be business. Otherwise, it's and actually it is. If you actually, I agree. If you do this in a good way, it is actually very good, profitable for the user and for the company. And I think it should be. It should be some financial incentives for both parties for this to really make sense.
Great. You have been also surely working or like talking to bigger companies about bigger boat producers and so on. How do they see you as in their industry? Are you still like the one who wants to disrupt the market, who doesn't need disruption, or are also boat companies understanding that there is a change?
We are in dialogue with some of the giants, and that much I can say. And the good thing is that even the biggest ones, they're very clear in that this is the future. They have understood this. So there is no question about it. And then one could always discuss how long time it will take. Quite often I do comparisons with a golf club or a gym. Today, no one questions the fact that if you want to go playing golf, you go to a golf club, right? Gym, when I was young, we had our own gym in the basement. Today, I'm going to have their own gym in the basement. You go to a gym because it gives you so much more. And I think with the same thing with boating, we see over time, most people will belong to boat clubs because they will offer so much more. We will never get all of them. But even here, the older generation, my oldest owner, he's 83, he said he's got his own boat. And he told me, well, Peter, since I don't use it that much, why can't you use it when I don't use it? So as a result of when you get a lot of volume, you can start offering other kind of solutions.
So becoming a competitor to Hygglo, basically.
No, I kind of always want to see it as competition.
Great. Do you actually had any talks or conversations with bigger companies about like what you are doing, or are you trying to be a fighter yourself as a star with them in the market?
We've talked to some companies. I mean, we've had some talks with IKEA. We have like a cooperation with them for IKEA family, but they're not a perfect match. We talked about to Claes Wolfson as well. Nothing official, but I mean, they're doing rentals, and I think which almost no one who I speak to know. They have these huge advertisements in every store. No one notices.
But it was very difficult for me to understand who is responsible for that at Claes Wolfson.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, from a consumer point of view, what we offer is primarily, as a first at least, it's convenience, and that's what I think people don't understand, that we're usually closer to your home than Claes Wolfson. If you want to drill, it's usually like 300 meters away, and also we have coverage over the whole of Sweden. I mean, if you go really up north, you have neighbors still. Most people have, but there's not really stores near you.
So was there like an idea maybe for a company to exactly use that, your ability to actually make it scalable, so to say, the rental?
Other companies to use
to
us
go,
scale.
yeah, exactly. So
No,
basically, I buy something from their company and then I use your.
Yeah, we talked about those kind of features as well, but we kind of get that business already, or it's more like a marketing thing that we might do. But I think our primary product is peer-to-peer, and then we might add like Hygglo Pro, which is more stores to users or something like that. We'll probably, if we won't do it, someone else will.
Yeah, thank you. And at Electrolux, I mean, you have invested already in Mila, and do you think that concepts like this actually need to come from external of the company, from startups, which actually can do this real innovation? Or do you think that you also, as a company internally, can do something?
I think you need to do both. You have an inherent channel conflict, of course, when you're in a big organization, right? So you have an established sales force who does a business in one way, and then you come with a completely different way of viewing the world and do business in another way, and you have this conflict there, right? But you need to do both. The challenge with a company like Mila, so Mila is a small startup. They do air purification, and they do it very well with connected air purifiers with sensors, and they offer their product as a subscription in primarily China and US. The problem that we also discussed previously with smaller companies doing hardware as a service is you need, your balance sheet becomes very constrained. You need to have these assets on your balance sheet, and for a company like Volvo or Electrolux, it's kind of it's okay until we have millions of units on our balance sheet. But for a company like Agapi or Mila, it's a completely different thing, right? The better the business goes, the bigger of a financial problem you have, because you tie capital into hardware. So that is tough for startups to manage. That's one hurdle, in addition to the other hurdles, right? So I think you need both. But startups are faster. They are, have bigger degrees of freedom in how to maneuver. They can solve problems in different ways. They don't have the channel conflict to cater to. So I think you need both to navigate. It's not like one or the other.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think we are already quite heavy on the time. So I would like. Especially for you, Peter, a short answer on the last question. It's like, it's the normal future question, like where will you be in 5 years in a realistic approach, and how, for the bigger companies, how will it change your company, and maybe the structural, or also like how you behave with customers? Do you want to start?
We have a vision, but that question, of course, where I want to be, and I honestly think we will make it, because all the trends point in the same direction. But I completely agree with it. Our biggest challenge as a small company, we have 30 boats. None of them cost less than 1 million crowns. So of course that's the biggest challenge. But once the industry starts seeing that this animal that we have together is a different animal, it's not boats that you sell, it's a subscription. And we have a low churn, high, and it goes like this. That's when we're going to get this disruptive change. If I wouldn't be extremely optimistic, not naive, hopefully, I wouldn't be sitting where I'm sitting, because this has been a long journey of a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But as I said, we are a mission-driven company, and it makes so bloody sense. So we will be successful.
Same question.
Yes.
Yeah. The vision or the ambition is to have subscription usage as the biggest in terms of markets, right? So if Subscription Inc. would be a market in Electrolux, it would be constituting the biggest market, right?
5 years.
Why not?
In 5 years, if it continues at this growth rate, we will probably be a profitable company in all of the Nordic countries, I would say. I think consumerism will change more, so my hopes are higher than that. But yeah, I would almost swear to that we will reach those goals.
Well, our mission is to drive the transition to sustainable shopping, and one goal could be that when anyone in here think that they need something new, a camera or a shirt or anything, they think of products that is already produced and that already exist. So I want to reach that. I want to reach all of us to really think of things that already exist. But I want to get there faster than 5 years. I want to get there in 2 years, 1 year.
And I would like to have plant trees on streets in Stockholm where we have where we just have parking lots today. So I think that in 5 years we have scaled this, so that's the main or people in the cities use these kind of services, ours or others, and we have scaled to other countries as well.
Great. Thank you very much. I hope I have tried to answer the questions which you got in for the app as well. All the other questions I will email to the panelists and I will send you later in the email. Thank you very much. Please a round of applause for... As I said at the beginning, we have these talks here on the sharing economy and circular economy to connect people. We have these talks or like these events to connect companies with startups, with experts, or also with journalists and so on. Whatever is to be able to connect. And we had already several successes. We had 2 companies which have a collaboration with, or 2 startups which already have collaboration with the company for these events, and 1 company is almost being bought up by another startup. So definitely stick around also later for the networking. So I'm the founder of ihopa, and what we are doing is basically a little bit different to what we discussed until now. We are focusing on shared ownership. We have quickly talked about it with Peder. What we have seen is basically that, as we discussed, stuff is standing around. I don't really need to convince anyone of this anymore in here. But what we also saw is that the premium manufacturers have this challenge of selling, reaching new markets. Their addressable market is very inelastic. So there's a lot of people which want it, fewer which can afford it, and less which actually buy it because of cheaper alternatives are becoming more and more valid. Then most of these companies, what they try is what companies here also try. They try to go in the circular economy. They try to rent out. They usually fail, as we heard at the example that no one knows that Clas Ohlson is renting out anything, because the scalability of renting out is very, very difficult. So we went in the concept to actually selling to groups, and that is a much more scalable process for most companies, because they can keep their linear processes and actually sell to groups of co-owners. And we went into, this is the collaborations what we have at the moment, and where we got into this is that actually people are ready to rent out, but there is some hurdles what they have to overcome. And that is, the first one is like finding the correct co-owner, then also the fairness and security questions, and at the end is like how the co-ownership works. And that's where we actually built our product. We have a marketplace and also sharing options where you can build your groups and with your friends or with strangers. When you publish on our marketplace, you get a sharing agreement and you get all the tools like booking calendar and so on to actually maintain this. We also, oops, sorry, Omocom, I still have your old logo there. I think I changed. We also have partners. We have identity insurance is very important. Also, we are co-innovating with Nordea on like group financing, group transactions. We have Omocom as our insurance partner, and maintenance and so on is also a very big topic in the shared ownership. This is, for example, how we do it with Husqvarna in their store, using it as upselling to robot lawnmowers. we have ihopa.com, and what we learned now in the summer is that we actually need to reach the people in the e-commerce when they are actually buying the products. So we are building now an e-commerce solution which is directly to integrate with customers, and it's also very interesting for the customers to use as retargeting and leads generation, because obviously people which jump away from your web shop, you're most likely lost. That's all I want to say about myself. Yeah, please follow us and reach out if you're interested in this concept. Thank you.
So, hi, my name is Sarah, work at Omacom, previously named Sharin, and we do insurances, as Alex just said. I'm here today to just shortly present what we do and what we are up to and what we do to enable the sharing economy. My slide person just left. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we want more people to start sharing their personal belongings to others. But that's pretty hard today, because we see that many people feel very unsafe doing so, unfortunately. And we think that traditional insurance companies today are not providing the services that we need to rent, because they are not provided to renting or subscribing or for shorter terms of time. So we want to change that. And that's why we created Omacom. And we offer insurance that is tailor-made for renting or subscribing or sharing your personal belongings to others. And we just went live after 3 years last week with TipTap, or 2 weeks ago. It's been a very successful launch. We've been live approximately 2 weeks, and we see that the conversion rate for this kind of service is about 50%. I thought it was supposed to land on around 10%, so that's pretty neat. And they have a transport service where you can transport things you buy from Blocket, for example, and then you can add on an insurance service that will protect the goods from being stolen or damaged during the transportation. Thank you, that's all. We're also, I'm going to say, we'll be going live on Hygglo. Just talk to you. It won't be next week, but maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. And we also collaborate with a lot of peer-to-peer platforms, but we're looking into B2B and B2C also. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much to Zuora. Johan will also be here if you're interested in learning more about it. Thanks Invest Stockholm for hosting us. Next event will be on December 5th. Thank you very much.